All right, well, let's get to it. And unfortunately, we're going to start with maybe the most one-sided matchup of the championship field, which is number 1 seed Louisville City, a team that lost once all season long, one game, is taking on Detroit City, who they swept the season series against, didn't give up a goal against. It is going to be a Herculean task for Detroit to pull this off. Do we think they have a shot at doing so?
I mean,
that's 2 I means.
Not everybody all at once for Detroit there.
Detroit hasn't won in Louisville in the history of the series. I guess to their credit, we have seen teams take it to Louisville before. Remember, North Carolina had that 3-2 defeat against Louisville in the first round last year, and Rhode Island did beat Louisville at Lynn Family Stadium last season. But this Louisville team is on like the levels of like 2019 Phoenix in the regular season. They're on the levels of 2015 Rochester, who also lost just once all year. This is a very different Louisville City team that we're used to seeing. And the fact that they still haven't won a league title since 2019, I think they're going to be very eager to get back to the final. And I think they win and keep Detroit scoreless in this game.
Yeah, I was spending time prepping for this episode trying to think of ways that Detroit City get past, and here's the only house of matchsticks that I have built to try to make a case for Detroit. So, Detroit City's only win since September 6th was against North Carolina. Louisville City's only loss of the season came against North Carolina. By the transitive property, it is technically possible that Detroit City wins. It's like this
Bring back the BCS.
Yeah, exactly. Scrap the playoff. Yeah. Let's just do a poll. No, I genuinely think that there is playoffs in general are fun because they create this sort of thing where anything can happen. And if Detroit City wins this game, it will be the most unjust thing that has happened in sports in decades. Detroit City does not have any business being in this position to defeat a team that has lost once the entire season. So the only just thing that can happen is a comfortable Louisville win, because it is like to spend 30 games deciding who is good in this league only for them to go out to Detroit would be truly like, it would make me question what is the point of all this.
Not even sure we'll get a shot on goal. I like that comment.
I was kind of going down the same route of, if any team is going to beat Louisville, how is it going to happen? And I think the two things you need are a defensive line that can be as physical as Louisville, which Detroit kind of sort of has, even if there maybe are some minor question marks. And I think you need to be able to transition past them quickly. Like, that's what Rhode Island did last year in the playoffs. On that front, I really don't think Detroit has the tools to break Louisville down. Maybe you get a magic goal from Artest Diouf. That feels like a tall task going against Josh Jones and Sean Tosh. Unfortunately, I would love to see this Detroit team and some of these core players that have been around like make one last run in improving USL. This isn't going to be the matchup that makes it happen.
Yeah, if you're stumbling into these playoffs with 9 wins and your last match was a 1-1 draw with the Tampa Bay Rowdies that you're like really supposed to win that one, this is not happening.
Yeah,
and I think Ryan, you said last week, and I think I fact checked this, that the last win on the road for Detroit came in April.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
They won, I think, 3 of their first 4 away games, and then did not win another away game the entire season.
Yeah, it was April
shout
against
out to
Phoenix.
Yeah. Turner Hawkins, who's involved with the club to a certain degree, was posting on Blue Sky. They earned more than a quarter of their points in April alone. Like they just had a really good April, and that was kind of it.
That they made the playoffs off the bat. Shrink the playoffs. The Jägermeister Cup exists for a reason. Shrink the playoffs.
Yeah, 6 teams, 4 teams. Who can say? But shrink the playoffs.
Go
Max.
back to the old American League, National League. Just win your league, and then we have a final.
Listen, I've got a whole. I've spoken about this at length. Like USL Championship final between the 2 best teams, and then the League Cup is for everybody else. That's
all right.
I
We're
like
putting
that.
Detroit out of their misery, and we are moving on to what, frankly, is going to be another lopsided game. If you think, oh, hey, didn't I just see Tulsa and the Switchbacks play? You did. Last weekend, Tulsa beat the Switchbacks 3-0, but they are going to be the 1-8 matchup in the West. I will once again pose the question to y'all. Do we think there is the chance of an upset here?
No.
This might be
The crowd goes mild. Yeah.
I mean, like the chance. The game will be played.
What I will say on the Switchbacks front of this, I think they will have learned lessons from everything that went wrong last weekend. And this is a team that for the past 2 months really hasn't had Kyle Vassell going. He is the exact sort of striker with the frame and the skill set that can come in and challenge a Tulsa defense that has suffered some injuries and has changed formations down the stretch. At the same time, that's really trying to play the positive side here when we just saw their defense look so disorganized. They very evidently don't have an answer for Taylor Calhera. I don't love the Brendan Creek, Steven Echeverria pivot. I don't think it has enough muscle, particularly in this matchup. Maybe they can get a goal or two and improve on what we saw in the season finale, but it feels like Tulsa's game to lose entirely.
I mean, the Switchbacks have been outscored 14-3 in their final 7 games, entering this match with the worst goal differential of any playoff team right now at a really funny -12 to then make the postseason, especially as the reigning champions of the league as well. I think this is going to be Tulsa going through.
And speaking of goal difference, Tulsa, just to talk about like their level, the only 2 teams with a better goal difference than Tulsa are Louisville and Charleston. So like this is a team that they've defended well. They gave up 20 goals the whole season. Only one more than Louisville, which has been like generationally good. So I do want to say that like this Tulsa team deserves to be here. The Switchbacks don't. And again, it would be a total injustice for the Switchbacks team to advance. So I hope that Tulsa get the job done. I hate that this game just happened because I do agree with your point, John, that like I think it makes it tougher on Tulsa when you take somebody apart right before you have to play them in the playoffs.
For sure. And to quickly address the question in the chat here about Jamie Weber starting to come good, I mentioned the shape change for Tulsa. They're essentially running a 4-2-3-1 now. And Weber just gets to be that guy in the middle at the number 10 spot who's picking up the ball, finding teammates on the turn, not as much defensive responsibility. He was the key player last weekend, and I think he'll come up big if and when Tulsa beats Colorado Springs again. So this is why you pay a lot of money for a player, right? When he can come in and make a difference in the playoffs, and I expect to see that from Jamie Weber. All right, let's get to a far more interesting matchup as we get back to the Eastern Conference, where it's a rematch rather of last season's postseason. Charleston Battery, number 2 seed, will be hosting Rhode Island FC. 2 teams that split the season series. You know this is going to be a pretty tight game and a defensive battle because of Rhode Island's track record. What, Phil, is going to be the formula for Rhode Island to pull off the upset?
Gum up the works and just try to hit them on the counter. I think like exploiting the wide areas where you know that Charleston like to get fullback, their wingbacks involved in the attack. Like trying to play into that space in behind when you're going to have to soak up a lot of pressure. You're going to have to face a lot of shots. That's just the reality for Rhode Island. If they can make sure that those shots are coming from distance, from poor areas, like, they stand a chance. And they're going to have to break really quickly against a Charleston team that, despite the fact that, yes, they, did not hit the heights of a Louisville this year, they are still a very solid team. They're allowing around a goal a game. So it's going to be tough to break them down. But Rhode Island is going to have to, they're going to have to try to unsettle them on the break. I think that's the only way, and just defend for their very lives.
Yeah, when Rhode Island beat Charleston earlier this year, there was a combined 12 shots in that entire game, and that was Rhode Island leading the shots advantage 7-5 and 4-2 in terms of shots on target. I feel like that's the blueprint there, that they need to basically limit the amount of chances that Charleston has in this match. I think one thing that Rhode Island does have going for them is that Charleston has kept just 2 clean sheets in their previous 12 games entering the playoffs, and the fact that Rhode Island has scored in 6 of their last 7 played shows that they're in decent enough form that they can frustrate the Battery in this game. And we clearly saw from last year's Eastern Conference Final, they know how to win in Charleston in the playoffs. That said, I feel like the Battery are going to advance past Rhode Island.
Yeah, and I think the argument for Rhode Island, they come into this game having allowed 5 goals in their last 8. They beat Charleston in the not too distant past. And in that match, I don't know if I've seen a team look as confident pressing upfield and then trusting a high back line, but one full of physical players that can battle in a duel. That's the balance that makes this team special. You throw in the fact that we're here in November, or almost in November, and JJ Williams is hot once again. That means everything for Rhode Island. Like, the guy has 4 goals in his last 3 starts. If he can look anything like he did in the 2024 playoffs, they've got a real chance to do it. That said, this feels like disrespectful to a Charleston team that is maybe the deepest team in the league. They can roll out Myers and Jennings and Rubin and Arturo Rodriguez, and nobody can match that. Whenever you play the Battery, it feels like a matter of time until you give up a goal. It's going to take, like, Rhode Island will have to pitch a perfect game. How about that, to be able to pull off this upset? Yeah. Anything more? If not, we can launch into the 2 versus 7 out west, where the Sacramento Republic will be hosting Orange County SC. Orange County was kind of getting the upper hand when these teams met previously in the regular season in the Jägermeister Cup. There was a more recent matchup where Sacramento was resting a ton of players, but then brought in the big guns late. They won that game. I don't know how much stock I put in it. I think for a 2-7, this is more interesting than you would typically expect.
The vibes out of Orange County are weird. Like, form has been not that great, but then final day they get a win. It puts them into this specific matchup. And meanwhile, Sac Republic, while we've felt like really strongly about the quality, and they're one of, as it was said in the comments, like, they're one of the few teams in the league with a double-digit positive goal difference. So it suggests that there's a lot there. They are just inconsistent. Like, for a team that's second place in the West, they just can't really find that, like, where they go on a big run of just winning like 5 on the bounce or something like that. And so it makes it tough to fully back the Sac Republic team, even in a game where I'm like, on paper, they should kind of cruise through. This ends up feeling like kind of a tough matchup. And because of the inconsistency on both sides, it's really hard to call. I think Sac Republic probably get it done. And it just ends up being like a very, very tough call, because they just neither team has really found any sort of consistency. So it feels like a bit of a coin toss in that way.
I will say Orange County only lost one of their final 7 games played of the season, and that included draws against New Mexico, Charleston, and Louisville. Say what you will about the quality of those lineups that they may have been facing in those games, but like they were getting results against teams who were finishing in the top 3 of their conferences at the time. And they, as we saw from the season series, they have been able to frustrate Sacramento a lot this season. I think this is a game that will be tied after 90, and I honestly think goes the distance to getting decided on penalties.
In which case, shout out to David Horn in the comments. You really trust having Danny Vitiello in that sort of situation when it matters the most. The more I think about this matchup, the more I think I'm just being cute about it. Sacramento is a really good soccer team. Neil Collins perennially gets his clubs to at least a conference final. They've got an elite defense. They have a number of offensive options from Corey Bennett to Roro Lopez and Christian Perrano that can break you down. I think the Roro Lopez retirement narrative kind of matters to the mentality this team is bringing to the table. Orange County won't make it easy. I think they're an underratedly hard team to stop when you think about Hegart dropping in from that left side and getting the overlaps from Dogman, all of that energy they put up on the right in transition. It'll take a lot for the Republic. And I think, Ryan, it's a good shout that maybe this goes to penalty kicks. But yeah, I have a tough time seeing Sacramento losing in the first round for a second straight year.
When Corey Bennett starts, or Corey Bennett scores a goal, Sacramento wins.
Yeah,
since he's joined the team, whenever he scored a goal, Sacramento has won.
Weird. I didn't realize Corey Bennett and Ryan JJ on that team with Independence DNA. So good for Sacramento. Yeah. All right, let's move to one of the real toss-up games out east, where we've got North Carolina, who climbed to the number 3 seed in the final weekend by facing their first-round opponent, Loudoun United. That was 1-0 in Virginia. This one will be played in Cary. I don't really know what to make of this game. Phil, help us out. What are you thinking?
I know that everybody watching this or listening to this is going to be expecting me to invoke the Lads protocol. And I am. Loudoun always does this shit. Advance against North Carolina. I don't know why I like this matchup for Loudoun in the first round. I think like the way that North Carolina plays to me is like a reactive sort of style.
100%.
And I think the thing that makes a difference in the playoffs, and I could be completely off. Maybe it works. Maybe they play a very defensive style and it works and it shuts everything down and they grab a goal on the counter and it all works out. I do think that the weapons that Loudoun has can unlock that sort of thing in a one-off game where you have these guys who can just score that pivotal goal, which changes everything and gets North Carolina like unsettled, out of shape, all that stuff. And all it will take is a single moment to throw off the sort of approach that I assume North Carolina is going to have. So to me, that is, I think that is why I feel like maybe Loudoun could actually get this done. I also really like the idea of the lame duck Ryan Martin making some kind of run here, because it just feels like Loudoun deserve that sort of where it's like Loudoun always does this shit. Maybe they don't give their players hot water. Maybe they fire their coach before the end of the season, but keep him in the job. Maybe they make a run in the playoffs because it would be the funniest possible outcome is Loudoun having their lame duck manager take them on some sort of title charge.
I think the weird thing with Loudoun right now is that they are very reliant on Abdelatif Abakora to break teams down on the dribble, drive that offense, and then hopefully score goals at the end of it. That's what makes Loudoun tick. Abakora has 1 goal since about mid-July, And without that goal scoring presence, defenses are able to sit back and be more balanced, not break their spacing. It makes it easier to defend against Loudoun. That said, I've kind of been, for exactly what you mentioned, Phil, about the passivity of that system, I've been kind of down on North Carolina all year. They've got the third worst expected goal difference in the league. Like, it's Las Vegas, Birmingham, and then North Carolina. That is not a great indicator when you get to the playoffs. I do think that the combination of Dolabella and Oleg Sanderson up top can really challenge Loudoun's defense, which is still pretty patchwork at this point. I lean North Carolina against my better judgment because of the home field advantage and because they've got those difference makers up top.
And I will say, at least entering this match on form, Loudoun has won just one of the last 7. They've scored the opening goal in just 2 of those games. In either game, they scored the opening goal in 3 of those games. Only one of those games they ended up winning. And I don't know. They've really struggled just offensively as of late. And I think North Carolina advance in what's probably going to be a rather low scoring game.
Yeah, feels right. Well, if that 3-6 is going to be low scoring, I just have an inkling that what we're getting with New Mexico and San Antonio might be a shootout. These teams have met 3 times. New Mexico won all 3 of those matchups. The one of them was on penalties in the Jägermeister Cup. That said, San Antonio comes out in the final weekend. They hang 5 goals on your El Paso Locomotive. Phil, do with that what you will, because El Paso is El Paso. There's something about this matchup, San Antonio getting hot at the right time, Mitchell Tainer stepping up, Jorge Hernandez being himself. It feels like a little bit of the old mentality monster magic. Am I wrong about that?
Wilmer Cabrera playing 5D chess by knowing that they had a home playoff game locked up before kickoff, and then giving San Antonio a bunch of confidence going into this matchup against New Mexico to potentially eliminate them is next level thinking and really seeing beyond the beyond the surface. I think it's shocking that both of these teams, again, the playoffs are really just bonkers, because why are either of these teams like where they are? New Mexico lost 10 games this season. Like, they are the 3rd seed, and they lost more games than El Paso, Phoenix. They lost just 1 less than Orange County down in 11. Like, this is a team that is capable of memes. And I think that's why San Antonio is so troubling at this very moment, because the most meme outcome is to go out in the first round as the 3rd seed at home to a San Antonio team that up until they hung 5 on El Paso hadn't scored in like a month. And so, yeah, I think San Antonio winning is the funniest possible outcome. And the fact that we're even talking about it as being possible is sort of like an indictment of where New Mexico is, like where we should be feeling much more solid about them as a 3 seed right now. And I've said it from the beginning of the season. I don't trust this New Mexico team. I don't think they're as good as sort of their placement in the league. 45 goals for, 41 against across a 30 game season. Just, yeah, I have no reason to trust them getting a result against San Antonio, even at home.
I would say New Mexico hasn't lost to San Antonio since 2023. And while San Antonio is completely in style as they clinched a playoff spot, ending their Hobbit trilogy level goalless drought to get into the postseason here is impressive. I do think form matters. New Mexico has been unbeaten in their last 7 games entering the playoffs, and they've scored in each one of those games as well. So I'm completely with you, John, that this game should be a shootout, and it should be a really fun game to watch. But yeah, just very strangely this season, for a team that finished 3rd, we didn't really talk about New Mexico a whole lot on the show this year. And even the times we did talk about them, it was just kind of when they were at the losing end of games, kind of in a surprise. So I do think New Mexico advances for the home field advantage in a really fun, high-scoring game. But yeah, San Antonio could very well have a chance.
And I think that could be partially my fault that we don't talk about New Mexico except in a negative light. So I apologize.
I will say with New Mexico, when have they had a resounding win? It's been a lot of baffling losses and a lot of games where they scrape by. And frankly, the comment we got that was like, they're either going to lose in the first round, and Frank Dolan here, or they're going to make it to the final and there's no in between. That feels like the energy with this club for whatever reason. And within this specific matchup, I'm going to be really, really worried if they choose Gideon Zelalem as the number 6. He is absolutely wrong for this game. And I'm so curious to see if Taylor Maples continues to play right back, knowing that it's going to be a one-on-one against Jorge Hernandez. That feels like a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, New Mexico, fewest draws of any team in the Western Conference. So you can bet that it won't end tied, essentially. Odds are.
Yeah. All right. Why is it not adding to stage? Let's swing back over to the number 4 versus number 5 seed in the East as the Pittsburgh Riverhounds take on a Hartford Athletic team against whom they swept the season series. Pittsburgh sneaky in very good form as they get into the playoffs. They're doing their defensive thing. Hartford, a little bit flat after winning the Jägermeister Cup final, but in getting that trophy itself, they've shown they can do it in a single elimination format. Going to be an interesting one at Highmark. How are we feeling?
Yeah, they finished level on points. The thing that I think Hartford has going for them is they score. Like they have been firing the whole back half of the season. They got to a point in this year where they were playing somewhat solidly defensively. And I think the elephant in the room is the fact that Bob Lilly is not going to be on the sideline. And I think that has a material impact on this Riverhounds team. Not to say that it didn't impact their league form in the sense that they all of a sudden fell off a cliff. And I'm just, from a mentality perspective, in a playoff game where you may need that 1 degree, that one little, percent more effort, more whatever. I kind of feel like this maybe is a perfect storm for Hartford to go to Highmark and get the result. And I just believe in Hartford's goal scoring, and in the playoffs, that just is such a factor in whether someone can advance. Literally, can you put the ball in the back of the net when it matters?
And historically speaking, Hartford hasn't won at Highmark since 2020, but this year has just been beyond the expectations for Hartford Athletic. I mean, they've already lifted a silverware on the season, and they came within a very close chance at hosting a home playoff game. And I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for Hartford Athletic to kind of just rewrite their legacy as a club. The fact that this team has been almost toiling away in mediocrity for pretty much their entire existence now has a chance to go into one of the toughest places to play and walk out with the result. And let's remember that Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff game since 2022 and haven't won a home playoff game since 2019. Still, at least more recently than the Steelers have. But I still think Hartford has a decent chance, just knowing that history from Pittsburgh as well, that I'm going to back them to advance.
I don't think you can underrate the mental side of things for Hartford, given what happened in the last matchup and the accusations. They've known about the matchup for 7 days, but they're metaphorically circling it on the calendar. I think this means everything to them. In terms of the game itself, they've got some of those bench options that you really love to have in the playoffs. Like Alex, you mentioned Swaybe Maru for Charlotte. Kyle Edwards is that player in the championship, 8 or 9 goals off the bench this year. Haji Berry doesn't start for Hartford. Imagine bringing a former MVP on in the 60th minute. That'll be a huge deal. At the end of the day, I like that for Hartford, and I think they've got a puncher's chance. Pittsburgh is a machine. This defense is as good as it's ever been. Robbie Mertz, I mean, I just submitted my all-league ballot. I think Robbie Mertz is an all-league player this year. He's been incredible for them. Augie Williams feels like the question mark. He's only got 2 goals in 9 career playoff appearances. If he can step up to the plate and be the player we know he can be, not only will Pittsburgh win this one, but I think they've got a legit chance to be the dark horse in the East.
Worth mentioning too that like for as good as Pittsburgh's defense was, 28 goals, a lot like less than a goal a game, 32 goals the entire season from a playoff team is crazy. Like the fewest goals for of any team bar Miami.
Wow.
Birmingham
That's
scored more
wild.
goals than Pittsburgh this year. So that shows you how bad Birmingham's defense.
Yeah.
But still, 36-32. That's tough.
Wild. All right, let's get out of here with one final game close to home for you, Phil, where it's Phoenix Rising and the El Paso Locomotive, who have only played insane matches this season. That is 3 games in total. That's 9 goals apiece across those 3 games. What I will say is this is not the Phoenix Rising team that participated in those prior matches. Since switching to a back 3 shape over the past month or so, they're, I think, 3 for 3 with clean sheets. They've only given up 0.6 XG per match. They look different, and that hasn't come at the expense of a really good counter centered on Hope Avievu as a false 9. El Paso, I will hand it off to you with whatever is happening on that side, Phil.
Well, I'll start just by saying that 9-9 on aggregate over the season mean this has 0-0 written all over it. I will say that El Paso as a team far exceeded my expectations this season, and they have a positive 2 goal difference. So I think like the reality of this El Paso team and sort of where they ended up in terms of they are hosting a home playoff game, they are still a team that drew more games than they won and lost 1 less game than they won, right? So like this is a very inconsistent team that rode a little bit of luck and a little bit of the simulation to a home playoff game. I think fitness concerns and like when you put the lineups side by side, there is a innate thinness to El Paso's team.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond sort of that first 11 and maybe like the first or second guys off the bench, Phoenix have more options in a playoff game, particularly if it goes to extra time. Like this is the sort of thing that does trouble me with this El Paso side, is that they just don't have the depth available and like the ability to change games differentially off the bench. The other thing is that they are prone to bozo behavior like early in matches, which can unravel them. And when you've got this, like when you've got that sort of stuff going on, it just makes playoff games really difficult, because if you have this sort of mentality slip or whatever, where all it takes is like one mistake and then it's just over. Yeah, that's the sort of thing. Like you need a level of resilience in the playoffs. You need a level of being able to like take a punch. And unfortunately, this El Paso team just does not have that. And I can easily foresee like an early Phoenix goal in this game being enough, right, to just like completely unsettle and turn the tide of this game. Of the games, this might be the toughest one to call, because there's a Jekyll and Hyde version of both of these sides, and like whichever one of each shows up could mean that this game ends 4-0 either way, or they, the good versions both show up and we're talking about like a 1-1 that goes to pens.
I had this game actually circled in terms of the first round as the one that I was most looking forward to watching as a neutral, just given these historical matchups between both teams. But the fact that Phoenix has cleaned it up in terms of at least clean sheets and later down the stretch, that they've gone 4.5 hours since they last conceded a goal, that this could very well be something that Phoenix gets the upset here, at least seeding wise, and advances towards the next round.
And it's worth mentioning that when Phoenix had that 4-4 at Southwest University Park early in the season, that was a very poor Phoenix performance in that El Paso like jumped all over, and they still fought back to get the point. Now, there's some, I will just say that the fourth goal is he could try to hit that 1,000 more times and never score. That being said, like they fought back from that deficit, and that was a far worse version of Phoenix than what we've seen recently, to your point, John, earlier. So
yeah, and I think the thing for Phoenix that you have to worry about is the health at the wingback spots. That was really why you changed systems in the first place. From what I understand, Colin Smith will not be available in this game, which means it's Asela Sang, a very natural center back on that right side, and Pop Marboy behind him. Pop Marboy, who's really struggled to find his footing really throughout the 2025 season. That's the axis where you got to stop Mondo Moreno, and you can't give up those supporting runs to Gabby Torres. That feels exploitable for El Paso in a way that's promising. I just don't trust the discipline of the Locomotive back line enough to think that they're going to win this game. So going Phoenix. All right. Hey, that was every playoff matchup.
We did
Once again, like I did for League One, I will say, who's going to win it all?
Louisville.
I'm going Louisville. I'm not gonna bet against them.
yeah,
Okay, in the non-Louisville department, because we're all in agreement here, who's going to win?
Charleston.
That's cheating, but sure.
I think the West is going to be an absolute rock fight.
Yeah, how about who's going to win the West, since we're very top-heavy out east?
I don't know. Sac Republic. When chips are down and it's a knockout format, Sac Republic.
I like it.
Give me Tulsa.
Ryan?
The winner of the Sacramento, New Mexico matchup.
Okay.
So
the 3 of the 2.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm choosing Tulsa or Phoenix. I really like what Rising's doing right now.